it's a spectacular road following the old pack horse routes, incidentally, just in case you were wondering. And indeed, with just under 25 kilometres to go, it's a spectacular day. The Italians do love dropping in pictures of the crowd just at moments like this. Get back, for goodness sake. Could affect the race if this motorcyclist doesn't start behaving himself. Chaves, the man who injected the pace that created this group, is here. Now, he was the best protected of all of the quartet. He's had to do the least work, I think it's fair to say. His team have worked absolutely brilliantly for him, you might say, but he's been clever himself as well by just keeping himself out of the wind and indeed keeping something back to invest in this. What about Bardet? Well, his team did a lot of work early on. He was up towards the 4. So has probably done a little bit more than Chaves. As for the two others here, Rigoberto Urán, he got unfortunately caught behind a split and had to push in, so he did a lot of work, but he is on stellar form, and the man we feel sorriest for within this quartet is Diego Rosa, because essentially he was working for Fabio Aru today. There's no napping matter. Oh, fella. Anyway, 4 it is we've got up front. It doesn't matter how you've ridden today, it's going to be a tiring one. 241 kilometres. Last year, Chaves tied himself up in knots, got a hunger knock, he'd taken their feet at the wrong time. Not going to make that mistake again. The question is, can he win it out of this quartet? Well, it's a tall order. Bardet, we know about him, brilliant. Likewise, Urán, particularly at the moment, he's on amazing form. It's come back at him like a rush. Urán is functioning at his highest, it seems, of all season at the moment.
You've got 4 strong riders in front, four climbers. They are at the front, courtesy of their form and the way they climbed that previous climb. But look at the size of this group behind. It's big enough to come back, and it's only 40 seconds. And you've got the run in, because this climb kicks up probably just about 4.5 kilometres to go. It's downhill and flat into Bergamo. If these riders don't push on in these final 22 kilometres, then there's a good opportunity for this group to come back to them. So if they combine well together, all 4 of them, they can stay away and battle out the win. If they don't combine well together, then I'm afraid that if this group gets organised behind, then quite possibly they could come back before this final climb. Okay, when we hit the final climb, I still think it's going to be the same favourites in front, but this group is only 45 seconds behind.
The next climb is probably the most benign that they've taken just about all day. In fact, it has a maximum of 9%, but it's right at the beginning, so you sort of you'll carry a lot of pace into it. Once you've actually dealt with that kilometre, then the rest of it really, in fact it's not even that, it's about 400 metres, then the rest of it eases out for you. So the average is 5.4%, but if you strip out the 9%, it's probably a little bit less than that. When we get to the end, though, things get very, very serious. So we have, we've still, I beg your pardon, we've still got that final climb to take. Thank you, Brian. Brian's woken me up with a slap of a haddock. The final kick, Brian, let's deal with it. They're coming off this climb, I beg your pardon. Then we have that time trial run to get to our final climb today. It maxes at 10% right at the very top.
It's a stiff climb.
12, in fact.
Yeah. I was just going to correct you there, 12. Yeah. It's okay. Only short and sharp, and it's on. It's not a smooth road either, but it's the sting in the tail of this year's Lombardy. But Valverde, Viella is in a good position. Aru's still in a good position. They've got riders in front, even Latour. But Valverde coming to the front, and he's the person setting the tempo. Once we come off the tricky part, if the other riders want to ride on the front, Demarque, Hisink, Visconti's there, Brambilla, they want a chance of winning, then they could still come back to the 4 in front. If they're thinking about just World Tour points and finishing in the top 10, then they won't come back. So this is going to be a testing time to see if this group does come off this descent, do want to come back to the front. But I still think there is enough form in these 4 riders of Bardet, the 25-year-old Frenchman, Chaves, the 26-year-old Colombian, Rosa, the 27-year-old Italian, and Uran, the 29-year-old Colombian. These are the strongest guys in the race at the moment, but they can throw it away if they don't ride together.
Well, they must have been listening to you, Brian, because it went down to 38 seconds. It's back up. The gap has just picked up, but 20 kilometres remaining. 20 kilometres remaining of today, and a little bit less than now, and this is the chase, and it's Valverde that's picked it up. Now, he's not been well. Well, has he not been well, or has he been resting? Pulled out of the Milan-Torino, it was something of a surprise. Well, it may well be that he gets a better run at today, but the problem for him is he's going to have to do this all on his own. Look at who the anchors are just behind him on this descent. He is a fabulous descender. The motorcycle probably knows that and has to get the hell out of there. He's got David Viejo, who's not going to push on because Oran is up the road. He's got Fabio Ru also marking him, but he's got Diego Rosa further up the road. Movistar at the moment, this is Giovanni Visconti just shaking out his hands. It is getting a little bit nippy, and of course we've had the wet weather as well. Stay safe, everybody, particularly on these curves. Look at that, you really can get thrown out to the barriers. The Mercatorum Road, it's absolutely beautiful. But will it be heaven or hell for these guys? We're going to wait and find out. They've still got 43 seconds now. They have to form themselves on the flatland into a time trialing unit. They will be at the bottom of this descent in 3 kilometres time. Can they make it, right?
There's 10 riders. It's still hanging in the balance, and it's a tempo being set by Valverde at the front. It's very difficult to organise a chase in a descent like this. So we get 10 riders chasing down the 4 riders in front, 36 seconds, and everybody just kind of sitting back and following Valverde. As we start getting to some tricky parts, you can just see the roads are slightly damp as Uran now has to chase back. Still 40 seconds, still in the balance. But I believe that these 4 riders still have the legs to try and pull off the win. Well,
it was a shaky moment on an earlier descent, and presumably he's had one right here. Let's have a look at it. Motorcycle problem? Well, no. But certainly took it very, very easy on the broken road there. Just decided to trim the corner and gets back in. He normally gesticulates if he's upset with the motorcycle, but the rain's coming, and that explains the squeaky moment. Now, we're still not done with our descending, Brian, because we've got some right at the very last, after we take on our pave section and the climb, and then we'll come down and back into town, essentially. So we climb to the city walls, and then zoom back in. Nembro we're at the moment. So pushing on and pushing for glory. Bergamo is where we are heading, and in fact we are nearly there. It's a spectacular ancient part of Italy. The lovely thing about the Lombardia is that they can change the route because the name is the region, and so they can play with it. And well, you can see just how absolutely beautiful it is. In fact, to my mind, Lake Como itself, including Bellagio at the top, which we visited at the top of the day, just on the opposite bank, the northern bank there, Varenna, probably my favourite place on planet Earth. It's spectacularly beautiful. Go and have a look at it. Varenna, and there's some great cycling as well, including the Madonna del Ghisello in the locale. Well, you find that while we gird ourselves for this. Still 43 seconds, and Valverde's going to have to do the chase essentially on his own. He's got no help at all, Brian, and no surprise there.
On the descent, it's probably easier for him to stay at the front like he's doing now, keep it around 40 seconds. But as we look a little bit further back, there are 10 riders in here. Some of them have to chase, some of them don't. And I'll just go through them now. There's Valverde, Visconti. Visconti is the rider at the back here for Movistar. Viella for Cannondale. He won't do anything. Hissink at the back. Torres in the red for Androni. Demarchi of BMC. Aruz there. Bargui. Brambilla from Etix. And I think Latour is still in there as well. So 10 riders chasing 4.
So if Valverde has held it for Movistar in the descent, Could somebody like Hessink come through and maybe engage a little bit of time trialing help to try and wind them in? I'm afraid I think they're going to run out of time. 44 seconds with 16 seconds remaining. And then, of course, we've got this pesky climb that they've got to deal with up to the Alto of Bergamo, the Bergamo Heights. So they go round the sort of up to the castle and then down, back and into town. Now, once they reach the peak, Brian, it's not that far from home. 1.7 kilometres they've got to deal with, but 12% as a nasty, nasty stinker just before the peak, just before the crest.
It's technical as well, but off the descent on the main road, Visconti comes to the front. There's probably 3 riders in here that are not going to do anything. Viera for Canon de Waru, for Astana, and Latour of AG2R. They have got riders in front, but all the other riders, including Hessink, Torres, Demarque, Bargui, Brambilla, if they want to try and win this race, now's the time to do this and get to the front and help out Movistar.
They've got 10 kilometres essentially of flat to try and wind these guys in. Now they, as you can see, are in proper team time trialling mode. Look at the gaps between the wheels here, Brian. They're absolutely in line. They're doing a proper job.
Yeah, they're on the edge now. They're concentrating. They're trying to get as much shelter as possible. Rose are doing a lot of riding in this group, and it'll be interesting to see what Aru does in this chasing group, because 26 seconds now. Visconti doing a good job, but everybody else is sitting back. Why is Demarque, Hessink, Brambilla, why are they all just sitting back when the race is down the road? You have to catch these riders first and then think about the race, and they could possibly just be thinking about finishing the top 10 and gaining these World Tour points.
Well, just looking over shoulder as the clock adjusts itself here, it seems that the pace of those further up the road looks a lot quicker than the pace being posted by these guys, but the clock seems to be coming down. I don't know whether it's just adjusting itself to real time off the bottom of the descent, because they've missed the time check. Transponder relay has not been at its best, I'm afraid, on occasion. It says 17 seconds, 16. It's continuing to come down. I'm not sure I believe it, Brian, but it might well be just the case.
I'm not too sure either. They're just the team cars are going past now, and they wouldn't put the team cars into a 14-second gap.
Precisely, it's nuts. So I think you can. They've taken the clock out at long last. So sorry for the confusion, but it was not our case. It looked like a countdown at one point. There we are. So 15 kilometres to go, and I think you can possibly just smash that clock to bits.
The bikes?
Get out of there, and they're waving a flag, but they're the problem. Just get out of there, for goodness sake. The bikes have been terrible today. Really bad. Today. Well, really bad.
And the Eneco Tour, perfect today. Oh, yeah, not so good.
Shame on you. Just really poor. 14.9 kilometres to go. They've got too many VIPs out there. There's all kinds of people mixed in within it, and the guy who's carrying the red flag, which is supposed to be a security device, actually almost taking a rider out himself. Slack. 14.8 kilometres then from home, and they push on, these guys. The clock was rotten as well for us, I'm afraid, and at a crucial moment like this you kind of rely on it. Anyway, they will now sail by and hopefully give us the kind of camera angle that we need to kind of work out the gap. These guys, though, they're pushing on into the void, and it looks like they are doing a proper job.
Yeah, with the team cars going forward, I can only think it's getting close to a minute. There's still possibility of the group behind coming up, but if the likes of Hessink and Torres and Demarque, Brambilla and Bargui are not going to help Visconti, then the winner's definitely going to come from this group of 4. Now the team cars are up, so that did take a little while for the team cars to come up, which I still think the gap is hovering about 1 minute.
Yes, so apologies if we misguide you, but we were misguided ourselves. I think we kind of pointed it out when they responded. Yeah, your clock's wrong. 12.5 kilometres to go then. Can I have a drink? He says, Giovanni Visconti. And you could just see, Brian, from the pace of the chasers, and indeed those up the road, it was clearly a completely different pace entirely. That gap wasn't closing down. At last, 48 seconds is what they've got.
Yeah, Visconti asking for a drink. Well, you can't get a drink inside the last 20 kilometres, so unfortunately he'll have to go thirsty.
Well, it's raining, you could just open his mouth.
Yeah, exactly, but he done a big turn there. And I think Valverde has to commit himself now. This gap coming up for 53 seconds now. Does look as if they win, but it wasn't a balance. Valverde done the best thing possible. He kept riding on the descent, kept the gap down to about 40 seconds, but now they're starting to attack each other. It's all over for these guys now.
Yeah, I think so. This is Torres, who's just going for minor positions by the looks of things. 11.7 kilometres to go. So we have our final climb, and it is a nasty, nasty test, albeit the sharpest point, I'm afraid, is just before the absolute point at the top. What's the point of that? Well, it is a big sort out, and I think it possibly might be, but only for minor places amongst these guys, because up front they're going to be gunning for glory. There we are. That is Aru just taking a drink as well. It's a minute now. It's going to be amongst those four. Just over 11 kilometres to go. Four fabulous riders up the road. It was Esteban Chaves that really put the cat amongst the pigeons when he went for it after biding his time throughout the day. They've got a minute on the chasers. And indeed, we're going to be seeing where they are heading, and thankfully they're doing it in a split screen for you. Here we are then, getting rid of everything extraneous. Romain Bardet, big noise in French cycling, and indeed saving of blushes for France, I think, during the Tour de France this year, when he finally helped them to take a stage, and what a great stage it was. Rigoberto Urán, a man who's done such great things, but was always, it looked like, going to be a nearly man, even within Colombian cycling. But he's refound his mojo, particularly at the late part of this season, and he looks very, very strong. There he is in the green. Diego Rosa in the pale blue has been such a great stalwart, and indeed battler on behalf of Fabio Aru. And finally Aru said, well, we both know I haven't got the legs, why don't you have a go? But he's done so much work today, how much more can he possibly put in? So that's your quartet. Chaves, who started the move, Mr. Smiles, they call him, will he be today? So two Colombians. Of course, we have Rosa of Italy in the blue of Astana. And, of course, we have Bardet representing France and AG Toro La Mondiale in the white. So it's not going to get caught, this quartet, with 9.7 to go. Of the four, who do you think will be strongest at the last?
Well, in that climb, Chaves looked so good in that previous climb. I think Urán is the better finisher of the four riders in front. Bardet likes to descend like an idiot. But I think Chaves will be the person. Yeah, Chaves will be the person attacking on this climb. He has to. He hasn't got the sprint as the others. So these four riders will be coming to this final climb together. And I think Chaves will go for it, but I think the winner is possibly going to be the Cannondale rider, Urán.
Well, I kind of hope so, to be honest, because I really like Rigoberto Urán, and it's almost like that others have come and nipped at his heels over the years. And in fact, you sort of start thinking, well, has he kind of missed the boat? Well, he's showing that it hasn't quite sailed just yet for Rigoberto. And I'm just hoping that today is yet another little look as to what great things this man can do. He's genuinely a very, very nice guy as well. Not saying the others aren't, but Chaves always very, very cheery, and in fact he's almost like a pet, I think, within Orica Bike Exchange. They absolutely adore him, the Aussie team. And the success which he has found, of course, on many, many occasions, Grand Tour level as well, as I'm sure you know. Stages, that is. Absolutely fabulous. Two great Colombian riders on your screen right now, plus, of course, an Italian and a Frenchman. Well, it shows you how international bike racing is these days. In fact, there we are. A minute and 10 they've got now, and they mean it. So it's about, I think, how you come into town. It may well be we see a bit of cat and mousing. You never know, Brian. Yeah,
we're starting to see it in the chasing group. Why did they not combine together? You have to kind of forget about the riders that have got riders in front, but they should have, in the flat parts here, they should have just rolled through if they wanted to try and win. But unfortunately, all they're doing now is looking for the minor places and the World Tour points to go with it.
Well, there we are. Oran, of course, twice a runner-up in the Giro d'Italia, so he goes very well in Italy. Never quite managed to take that extra step forward, and then, of course, the Colombian focus changes to Quintana and Chaves. But he's here, 29 years of age now. I always think that Oran's been around a lot longer than that. But yes, there's only a modest margin between himself and Chaves, that everyone thinks, of course, of being very much a youngster. Well, he's 26 now. He's no longer in the young riders categorization. A couple of stages on the Welter to his name. That was last year, and of course was runner-up in this year's Giro d'Italia. So yes, we've got a couple of men who go well in Italy. This is the breakdown of the alliance behind. I think it's just a case of, well, what on earth are we going to get out of this one? 6.9 kilometres to go. So let's talk about our approach, Brian. They're on cobbles at the moment. They get used to those because we're going to have plenty of them on the run-in. But it does twist this road quite nastily as they go round the citadel, get higher and higher until we actually peak out on Lago Colla Aperto, and then we come back down and into town with about just over 3.5 kilometres to go. So we're climbing now.
It's a tricky finish, a real tricky finish, but the fortunate part about this finish is the steep hill they've got to go up around the citadel, and a steep descent all the way to the finish. So at least it's uphill with so many corners, but 4 riders in front: Bardet, Chaves, Rosa, Uran. Diego Rosa is the rider that came across in that previous climb and put a lot of effort to come across. He was riding for his teammate Aru, who's in this group. Never had the legs, and it was a late call for Rosa. Is he going to pay for these the efforts of today on the next climb?
I think so, but then again, he'll go and win it now. It's all going to be, to my mind, about the descending sprint, because these are all capable climbers, and this is not going to be too much of a problem for them. So it's about how they duke it out in the last, what, 3K?
Yeah, Chaves has to attack. Uran is probably the fastest finisher of all 4 of them. Diego Rosa, he's doing a lot of riding. He's constantly going to the front. Bardet is probably the opportunist. If they still stay together, Bardet will try and go on the descent.
Rosa, they were screaming at him, stop doing so much work, I'm sure they were saying. He says, yeah, got that, and just beds in. He can actually refuse to help out now because he's done so much work today, quite frankly. And I'm just wondering whether you're going to start seeing the work rate here start to change.
I think Diego Rosa deserves a podium. Yeah, unfortunately, there's 3 other strong riders with him. Yeah. For an Italian to finish on a podium, and the ride he's done today, he deserves it. But whether he gets it in the end, I'm not too sure.
Stuff from around there. You see that? He sees the camera bike, and he takes his turn, and then he just jinks in behind the camera bike to just get whatever watts he can take from it. It's about saving energy at the moment like this. They've got the cushion, so it could well come down to the sprint. Watch Bardet's descent in town. It might get hairy. Meanwhile, Torres still tries to push on, and it's yet another Colombian flag that's being brought up to the fore. But 1 minute and 3, I'm afraid, to the chasing group solid. And they take these turns as they come into town, and gosh, the banners, they tell you what you need to know. Just under 5 kilometres from home, a quartet of greats: Chaves, Uran, Bardet and Rosa, and that's where they're heading, to the citadel. They'll go up to the heights and then they'll come back off it and into town to the finish line. An absolutely beautiful part of the world. The Dukes of Bergamo used to duke it out up here, and in fact it was all scrapping, of course, for the citadel. And it's Bergamo Alta, High Bergamo. You can see Lower Bergamo further down in the lowlands, some of which is challenged architecture, but there's no doubt about the beauty of this. Absolutely majestic, like a boat, I think, sailing through the plain. Well, right now, who is going to take it on and who's going to get sunk? We'll find out. I'm afraid it's not going to be Torres today, but a brave effort by him. 4.4 to go, and it looks like maybe inside our approach, it may well be some of the relays are challenged. We're just looking at those who are going to, I'm afraid, just be working for a top 10. That's the chasing group now, 1.5 minutes. Back to where the action is and our climb. Now they've they still have to deal with the steepest part, but look at how the wall here leads into the road, and you can see how steep it is. And 12% as Torres just takes the 5K to go banner, and it'll be another 10 seconds or so, less than that, before the chasers do exactly the same. But we're waiting for the crest. And will it be of a wave? Well, they've decided that he's going to roll the dice here, and who else but Diego Rosa? He's got no choice. He's not the fastest man when it comes to a sprint, and he's decided to try and shake him out right now. Chaves responds, Bardet goes for it, and Oran sits in. And no surprise there. Don't be too afraid about Oran as he goes for the flat surface just before the city gate. Here we are into the Citadel, and now is the toughest part, and it's an unkind surface as well, so they all go for the smooth part, and Oran almost gets into the back of Bardet, the leggy Frenchman, with 4 kilometers to go. There is Chaves, and they're all on the back wheel of Diego Rosa. I think that may well have been his best chance to shake him off, and he failed to do so. Off the cobbles onto an asphalt surface, and here are the fans in the steepest part now. This is where the grind happens, and in fact they're just about to crest it. They've dealt with it off the cobbles by the looks of things. So it's going to be about the descent, and then indeed the sprint for the line as they almost come all line astern, and as they do so, Chaves picks it up and he goes on the attack. Bardet goes for it as well. Just betting into them goes Oran, as Rosa finds himself from P1 to P4 in very, very short order. And here is that final kick that we've been waiting for. Couldn't quite see it, and the fans are leaning in to try and see their heroes. And they're seeing a face full of a little Colombian at the moment as he goes for it. Bardet stays with it. Rosa starts to look like he gets distance, and Bardet's gone pop on the 12% marker here. And Rosa's going to have to wrestle to get by him. The Frenchman's gone. Oh, he's struggling on this 12%. He might make it up on the descent, but it's still a long way to go, I think. Sorry, there's not that long to go, I'm afraid, for him back to the line. 3.6 kilometers to go, and it's the 2 Colombians out front, and I'm afraid the Frenchman's gone, and Rosa looks like he's suffering. There's another Colombian here. I wonder if it can be a Colombian 1, 2, 3. Well, think again. He's a minute and 18 down. Minute and 33 are the main pack, being led by Robert Hessing at the moment. So, as it looks at the moment, it's Chaves versus Oran, and the fastest finisher here is Oran. I think, to be honest, if Chaves wanted somebody else to win it, it would probably be Oran. They're great friends, but they'll be great rivals all the way to the line. You can believe that. Torres just rounds that steep section as well, where the fans have gathered here today, and Hessing makes the catch with a minute and 23 then the gap, and he has been caught, so the clock is out again. 3 kilometers remaining then, 2 up front, and really that's where the camera should be. And here's Bardet, suffered on that climb, but he's a fabulous descender. Can he make it up?
I don't think he's going to make it up, but this is probably too much. It is a technical descent. The last time France won this race way back in 1997 by Laurent Jalabert, and it's not going to happen today, but a super ride there by Diego Rosa. Italy won it last year. Can he win it again this year? But in the history of the Tour of Lombardia, a Colombian has never won, and now they've got 2 riders in the first league here.
Almost, I'm afraid, Oran was almost T-boned there by Chaves. They took very different lines around that corner, and I think Oran was basically saying, come on, through you come. And Chaves decided to back out of it, didn't want it at that point. He wants Oran to do some work here, because Oran is going to be the quicker of this pairing. No disrespect to Diego Rosa, he's done so much work. It'd be a fabulous result if he does win today, the Italian, for Astana. But with 2 kilometers to go, I think Oran's probably the favourite. He's got a brake issue, has he? Or is he just making sure that it's clear so he doesn't hamper his sprint?
It's Oran's to lose. Just watch out for Diego Rosa. I don't think he's finished yet. Chaves is trying to get him through. They're playing cat and mouse. He's worried about Diego Rosa. Is going to take a flyer and try and surprise the Colombians, but this is Oran's to lose. He has to keep it going.
Well, keep it going, you might say, for Oran. He made Diego Rosa work so hard for him. Very late call by Aru to tell Rosa to go for it. Rosa's got a chance, but it's a slim one. Bardet's chances have just gone up in smoke, and Rosa does go early. So then, here's the chase on, and Oran will pick this up. Chaves won't be tempted to go ahead of Oran at a moment like this. Great tactical move, had to be, but It's going to be cat and mouse between the two Colombians. They'll mark out the distance and they'll just sit in at the moment. And so this is Oran who will try and make Chaves go for it, and then he'll try and eat him up in the final run for home. They're coming to the Flamme Rouge.
Chaves is doing the perfect thing here. He's just sitting there doing nothing, just following. Diego Rosa, I think, might try and go again, but we knew he's thinking of trying to go alone. But Oran has to take it on from the front. They were looking behind to see where Bardet was, and he's only about 10 seconds down.
He is. Oh, that was the pace he was taking into the curve. So here we are. There's a final right-hander. It's a 90-degreer at 250 meters to go. But look at the pace that they've got here. So it will be an out-and-out sprint. Camera bike needs to stay sensible as they come by, because they're all going to drift over to the right-hand side of the road. He mustn't occupy that position. They'll drift over to flatten out the run-in. Zips his jersey up, does Oran. Still, oh, and Rosa does go for it again. Rosa's gone all in. Now, this could be a cheeky one. Here we are, and he's got the pace. Oh, he's got something very, very special here. He's going to take this corner. It's a big one. This is a huge moment for him. 250 meters to go. Oran straight into his slipstream. Chaves trying to hold on as well. 200 to go. Less than that. We need a heads-up shot. And Oran, does he come round the corner? Can he come round the corner? Rosa's holding on. He's holding on. Rosa's holding on, for goodness sake. Oh, and Chaves mugs him at the very last. Chaves takes it at the line. Rosa beaten. A huge sigh from the crowd as he fails to get it. And Oran finished third. What a surprise. The first Colombian to win the Lombardia. What a duke out that was. What a great race.
Oh, it was perfect in there. Perfect tactics by Chaves. He was just following. They knew that Oran was probably the best finisher, but he was having to jump all the time onto Diego Rosa. I thought with about 50 metres to go that Diego Rosa was going to hold on as Oran was tying up there, but it was Oran's to lose, and unfortunately for him, he just ran out of legs in the finishing straight. He was the person that had to ride, the fastest of the three, but when we came round that last corner, they digs by Chaves on the climb, and the digs on Diego Rosa to bring him back. Chaves done the perfect thing, just waited, and came round in the last 50 metres to steal the win.
It's about energy preservation, and we said Chaves had the easiest ride of the day, as if anybody could have been described as having an easy one this time by. Oh, terrific. Great work. David Vieira comes to the line. Unfortunately, it's not going to be 1 and 4 for them. So it'll be drips and drabs as they make their way in. It'll be a long time before we get to the podium, because the riders have to arrive. And to be honest, with the parkour today,
in these final 22 kilometres, then there's a good opportunity for this group to come back to them. So if they combine well together, all four of them, they can stay away and battle out the one. If they don't combine well together, then I'm afraid that if this group gets organised behind, then quite possibly they could come back before this final climb. OK, when we hit the final climb, I still think it's going to be the same favourites in front, but this group is only 45 seconds behind.
The next climb is probably the most benign that they've taken just about all day. In fact, it has a maximum of 9%, but it's right at the beginning, so you sort of you'll carry a lot of pace into it. Once you've actually dealt with that kilometre, then the rest of it really, in fact, it's not even that, it's about 400 metres. Then the rest of it eases out for you. So the average is 5.4%, but if you strip out the 9%, it's probably a little bit less than that. When we get to the end, though, things get very, very serious. So we have, we've still, I beg your pardon, we've still got that final climb to take. Thank you, Brian. Brian's woken me up with a slap of a haddock. The final kick, Brian.
Right together.
Well, they must have been listening to you, Brian, because it went down to 38 seconds. It's back up. The gap has just picked up, but 20 kilometres remaining. 20 kilometres remaining of today, and a little bit less than now. And this is the chase, and it's Valverde that's picked it up. Now, he's not been well. Well, has he not been well, or has he been resting? Pulled out of the Milan-Torino, it was something of a surprise. Well, it may well be that he gets a better run at today, but the problem for him is he's going to have to do this all on his own. Look at who the anchors are just behind him on this descent. He is a fabulous descender. The motorcycle probably knows that and has to get the hell out of there. He's got David Viejo, who's not going to push on because Oran is up the road. He's got Fabio Aru also marking him, but he's got Diego Rosa further up the road. Movistar at the moment, this is Giovanni Visconti just shaking out his hands. It is getting a little bit nippy, and of course we've had the wet weather as well. Stay safe, everybody, particularly on these curves. Look at that, you really can get thrown out to the barriers. The Mercatorum Road, it's absolutely beautiful, but will it be heaven or hell for these guys? We're going to wait and find out. They've still got 43 seconds now. It's a spectacular road following the old pack horse routes, incidentally, just in case you were wondering. And indeed, with just under 25 kilometres to go, it's a spectacular day. The Italians do love dropping in pictures of the crowd just at moments like this. Get back, for goodness sake. Could affect the race if this motorcyclist doesn't start behaving himself. Chaves, the man who injected the pace that created this group, is here. Now, he was the best protected of all of the quartet. He's had to do the least work, I think it's fair to say. His team have worked absolutely brilliantly for him, you might say, but he's been clever himself as well by just keeping himself out of the wind and indeed keeping something back to invest in this. What about Bardet? Well, his team did a lot of work early on. He was up towards the 4. So has probably done a little bit more than Chaves. As for the two others here, Rigoberto Urán, he got unfortunately caught behind a split and had to push in, so he did a lot of work, but he is on stellar form, and the man we feel sorriest for within this quartet is Diego Rosa. Big deal with it. They're coming off this climb, I beg your pardon. Then we have that time trial run to get to our final climb today. It maxes at 10% right at the very top.
It's a stiff climb.
12, in fact.
Yeah, I was just going to correct you there, 12. Yeah. It's okay. Only short and sharp, and it's on. It's not a smooth road either, but it's the sting in the tail of this year's Lombardia. But Valverde, Viela's in a good position. Aru's still in a good position. They've got riders in front, even Latour. But Valverde coming to the front, and he's the person setting the tempo. Once we come off the tricky part, if the other riders want to ride on the front, Demarque, Hisink, Visconti's there, Brambilla, they want a chance of winning, then they could still come back to the 4 in front. If they're thinking about just World Tour points and finishing in the top 10, then they won't come back. So this is going to be a testing time to see if this group does come off this descent, do want to come back to the front. But I still think there is enough form in these 4 riders of Bardet, the 25-year-old Frenchman, Chaves, the 26-year-old Colombian, Rosa, the 27-year-old Italian, and Urán, the 29-year-old Colombian. These are the strongest guys in the race at the moment, but they can throw it away if they don't.
Because essentially he was working for Fabio Aru today. There's no napping matter. Oh, fella. Anyway, 4 it is we've got up front. It doesn't matter how you've ridden today, it's going to be a tiring one. 241 kilometres. Last year, Chaves tied himself up in knots. Got a hunger knock. He'd taken their feet at the wrong time. Not going to make that mistake again. The question is, can he win it out of this quartet? Well, it's a tall order. Bardet, we know about him, brilliant. Likewise, Urán, particularly at the moment, he's on amazing form. It's come back at him like a rush. Urán is functioning at his highest, it seems, of all season at the moment.
You get 4 strong riders in front, four climbers. They are at the front, courtesy of their form and the way they climbed that previous climb. But look at the size of this group behind. It's big enough to come back, and it's only 40 seconds. And you've got the run in, because this climb kicks up probably just about 4.5 kilometres to go. It's downhill and flat into Bergamo. If these riders don't push on,